I'm one of the pastors here at Epicentre Church, and I'd like to give you a huge warm welcome. Thanks for everyone that's joining us here in person, as well as all those that are watching online. So if you haven't been following us, you haven't been with us, this is your first time checking us out. So we've been going through the last 3 weeks a series that's based on our mission as far as what we're striving to outwork as a church. And if you're a regular here, you'll hear it mentioned pretty well every single week, and that is that we're about three things. Like, we have an agenda here to outwork a couple of things specifically every week here at church, and that is that our agenda is this, that we want to embrace people. Our agenda is this, that we want to embrace Jesus, and that we want to do this. We want to empower leaders, grow leaders, build leaders, send leaders out. And we say that most weeks, and so what we've done, and we do it every so often, is we spend, obviously 3 weeks going through this. And so if you're not a regular here, I want probably to start with this point, that if this isn't your home church, specifically, we're not talking to you. In as much as I think there's a whole lot you can probably take this back to your church and get a whole lot out of it, or plug it into your church. But specifically, what we've been talking about for the last couple of weeks are people that call Epicentre Church home, and on top of that have said that I have made a decision to follow Jesus, that I am a Christ follower. And so specifically, they're the groups that we're talking to, and that's what we've been talking about the last couple of weeks. And so week one, we started with this idea that we're as a church, that we do our all, that we strive to embrace people, connect with people, to love people, to cherish people. And the idea that we looked at was that realistically, you belong in church whether you believe or not. And so what we strive to set up as a church is a church where people belong before they believe and before they behave. You belong in church no matter how bad, sinful, wicked that you think you are, or the person next to you keeps telling you that you are. We say this, that you belong in church. And then we follow, so that was week one. We're about embracing people. Week two was we're about embracing Jesus, meaning this, that Jesus, we believe, is the Messiah, the Son of the living God, that he is the one that died to set us free from our sins, and that we believe that true transformation happens when we encounter that relationship with Jesus. So we looked at that last week. And this week, we're closing it off, and we're talking about the last thing, and that's we're about empowering leaders. And so we're about embracing people, then embracing Jesus, and empowering leaders. Now, some of you may have started thinking that, hang on, I've been a Christian all my life, and I know what this stuff kind of says and that sort of thing. Like, I'm coming to church. Shouldn't church or a mission of the church be about embracing Jesus first before people? Like, shouldn't Jesus come before people? And I'd say, absolutely, you're correct. Like, Jesus is paramount. We worship him above all. But we've set the mission up, worded in that way, because it's meant to be this round-the-clock continuing theme, that we connect with people, we embrace people, we love people, engage with people, and then out of that they discover this relationship that they were created to discover, being a relationship with Jesus. And then they encounter, and then from there, they embrace Jesus. And then from there, out of their embracing with Jesus, they become empowered to be the person, the leader that God has created them to be. And then in turn, what happens? They go out and they connect with someone. They embrace a person who in turn embraces Jesus, who in turn becomes a leader, a follower, a disciple, however you want to word it. And then that person goes out and they connect with someone, and it's just this consistent theme that goes on. We believe that church should be fluid like that. Our Christian walk should be fluid, where we're connecting with people, and out of our connection with people, they discover the relationship with the Creator that they were created to have, and that is this relationship with Jesus. And then in turn, Jesus empowers them to be the leader that they were created to be. And then in turn, it continues on, and it continues on, and it continues on. So this is what we believe. While we do our all to try and connect and build and raise people and equip people as leaders, realistically, we will never become the leader that we were created to be, the person that we were created to be, without a relationship with Jesus. So when it comes to us as a church, we're about empowering leaders. Well, that empowering leaders can never happen without that person connecting to a relationship with Jesus and ultimately allowing him to lead them to guide them, to direct them. And so the idea is this, that this is what we believe as Christians and as a church, that you were created on purpose and you were created for a purpose. If you're here this morning, if you're watching online this morning, this is what we believe, that you were created for a purpose and you were created on purpose. Like, you're not a mistake. No matter how much mum or dad told you that it was an accident, we didn't want any more kids, but you just turned up. I'm one of those children. In fact, only one out of us three apparently was planned. The other two aren't wanted. So it's like some of you have that story, and it's not necessarily a bad story, but for some of us, it's like, I was an accident. Like, I wasn't necessarily meant to be here. Can I tell you this, that you are not an accident? That God planned you in advance. He has a plan. He has a purpose for your life. You're not an accident. You're not accidentally here on purpose. God wants to speak something to you. You're not accidentally watching. You're here, you're watching, you're engaging on purpose for this reason, that God wants to share something with you, connect with you. Some of you sit here week in, week out, watch week in, week out, trying to understand, like, what is this all about? Well, can I suggest this to you, that none of that is by accident, but rather that God has something that He's wanting to get across to you, to speak to you, to share with you. And ultimately, this is what we believe as Christians, is that God has a plan, He has a purpose, He has something in store for you to outwork, and He wants you to discover that so you can step in to become the person that you were created to be. My definition of leadership would nearly be summed up in this: discovering a relationship with Jesus and then becoming the person that you were created to be. Like, not everyone's going to be a CEO leader. Not everyone's going to be Beechworth Beck. Yes, I've said it plenty of times. Not everyone's going to be a leader. Like, so Beck, she's a superstar. She leads 300 plus people. Is that correct? Yep. Beck's absolutely incredible. Not everyone's going to be a leader like that. Not everyone's going to be a school teacher like Karina Bruffel, that is leading children, inspiring children, engaging in children. You can smile. It's okay. Like, not everyone's going to be leaders in that form. Some of us are going to be leaders that don't necessarily look like leaders, but this is what we believe, that every single one of us is leading someone. Like, every one of you has got someone watching them. You got a friend at school that is watching you. You got a friend at school that is watching how you talk, how you behave, how you interact, how you engage with the teachers. You got people at work doing the same thing. Like, I've got people constantly looking at me, watching how I interact with them and behave with them. So for those of you that don't know me, I don't only do this, like, I'm not only a pastor, but I have my own business as well, where I shoe horses. I don't shoot horses. I put shoes on their feet, okay? Some of those people don't know that I'm a pastor. Some of them don't necessarily know that I'm a Christian. Like, I don't just run around with a flashing red light and say, pastor warning, you have a pastor turning up. If it comes up in conversation, we talk about it. If church comes up in conversation, we talk about it. If Christianity comes up, I don't avoid it, I talk about it. But not all of them know. But every single one of them are watching me. Whether they know that I'm a Christian or not, or a pastor or not. But every single one of them, specifically if they know me and know who I am, they watch me a whole lot more closely. Every single one of us has someone that is watching us. Not necessarily eyeballing you to watch when you step up, to watch when you mess up, but all of us have people that we are leading, no matter your age. If you're really young, you've got siblings maybe you don't. But every single one of us has someone that is watching us, following us, getting leadership, realistically, from us. And this is what we believe as Christians, that you were created to influence them to become the person that they were created to be, that they were created to become. So the big idea that I'm wanting to get out this morning is this: that leadership does this. It leads you through, and it leads you to. Like, leadership does this. Connection with Jesus does this. It leads you through, and it leads you to. It leads you through your fear to where you'd never normally go. A relationship with Jesus, this is what it does. It leads us through our fears, our struggles, all of that, in order to take us to a place that would never normally go ourselves. I can tell you this, that there's no way I would be a pastor if it wasn't for Jesus. And I will drill down on that a little bit further. There is no way my wife would be a pastor's wife without Jesus. When this idea was floated to us, the conversation went something like this. I said to Sage, the previous pastor that was here, that was Damo, he said, hey, what do you think about this? I'm thinking that God's put this mantle on your shoulder to become a pastor. And so I went home to Sage and said, I kind of feel like this is what Damo, the previous pastors, said, and I kind of feel that we should do it. She's like, no, we're not doing that. It's not happening. Like we wouldn't be in this position doing this without Jesus. There is no way. I wouldn't have survived the first couple of years doing this without Jesus. There's no way. There's so many things in my life that I wouldn't have survived without Jesus. And if you're a Jesus follower, you would have found yourself in positions like that too, that you wouldn't be in the place that you are currently without Jesus. Maybe some of you got clean from addictions. And that was through a relationship with Jesus. Maybe some of you felt encouraged to be able to step out and say, you know what, how you're treating me isn't right. And to speak up. And you've done that because of the relationship with Jesus has built you up and restored you and encouraged you that you have value and people don't get to speak to you like that or however it is. Like all of us at somewhere in our relationship with Jesus will go somewhere we wouldn't normally go or naturally go ourselves. And there's this story in the Bible that depicts kind of a similar theme outworking. And so there's a story in Matthew's gospel where Jesus and his disciples, they find themselves in a bit of a sticky situation. The precursor to this that we're about to go through, which is the story of the disciples jumping in a boat, finding themselves in a storm, and then like a ghost turning up, walking across the water. Some of you will know that. If you don't, it's okay. We're about to go through it and read it. But the precursor to that is like Jesus and his disciples have just done something really miraculous. So he's been ministering to people. There's been 5,000 people standing in front of Jesus, and he's been communicating to them, sharing with them, ministering to them, and everyone realizes that they're hungry. And so Jesus pulls this incredible miracle out where he feeds everyone with basically nothing, just a little bit of this and a little bit of that, like a little bit of bread, a little bit of fish, not enough to go around 5,000 people. But incredibly, Jesus prays for it, breaks the bread, breaks the fishes, and I don't know how he breaks fish because fish aren't easy to snap like that. Hey? Frozen. First century Palestine had freezers. Yeah, and they all went to see Jesus in their four-wheel drive with a fridge in the back with freezing, yep. Yeah, so I don't know. He snapped the fish, anyways, and he multiplied, and he sent it to everyone, and everyone was fed. In fact, the story goes that so much food was there that there was leftovers from a couple of fish and a couple of bread. Anyway, so that's kind of what happens between Jesus and all these people, and the disciples, like Jesus' followers, they witness this take place. They see it happen. And so what ends up happening is Jesus feeds everyone, he talks to everyone, then he dismisses everyone, and he sends the crowds to head back home. And he goes and puts the disciples lovingly, packs them and puts them in a rowboat in their little boat. And he says, I want you to head over to that side of the lake. I need to go up to the mountain. I'm going to go up the top of the mountain. I'm going to pray. I need to connect with Jesus. I am Jesus. I'm not going to connect with Jesus. I'm going to connect with God. And so Jesus goes up the top of the mountain to pray and sends the disciples in a boat to head across the lake. And so that's what's happened, which gets to this point so Jesus has sent them off and then he's headed up to the mountain to pray. And it gets to this in Matthew 14:23 that night fell while he was there alone. Jesus is up the top of the mountain, the sun leaves and it's dark. That's what happens. If you haven't worked it out, that's nighttime. And so the disciples, they're in a boat, like floating, sailing. Jesus is up the top. He sent them off. Are you with me? Jesus isn't with them. Jesus put them in a boat and sent them on their way, on their journey, in this direction I want you to go. And then he goes up the top of the mountain. He's nowhere near them. And so Jesus, while he's up there, night fell while he was there alone. And then meanwhile, so this is while this is happening, the disciples were in trouble. Everyone say in trouble. In trouble. They don't have Jesus with them, so they're going to be in trouble, just to start with. But they're in serious trouble. So the disciples, they find themselves in trouble far away from land, for a strong wind had risen and they were fighting heavy waves. And so what's happened is, it's not just a couple of it's not just choppy. It would suggest that this was incredibly difficult to navigate through. And it gets a bit further on, which we'll read it in a little bit, but this goes on for a long time, this fighting, this wrestling with the wind, with the waves. In fact, what it says in the story, which we'll read about in a little bit, is that at 3 o'clock in the morning, something changes and Jesus starts coming. But at this point, night has just fallen, so it's only just dusk. Night's fallen, it's only just dusk, and this goes on for a long time. And I say that because we need to realize this, that some of these guys were seasoned sailors. At least 4 of the disciples, that was their job. They were fishermen. They would go out in the Sea of Galilee every day and go in and catch fish and do what fishermen do, throw nets out. We don't so much throw nets out anymore unless you're a trawler, but we might throw lines. I don't know how, I'm not a fisherman. I'm going to stop talking about fishers. But anyway, so Jesus, he's gone up, and then they find themselves in difficulty, and 4 of them at least were seasoned sailors. And that's kind of important because it would suggest that the storm was exceedingly rough and difficult to navigate and get their way through, because if it wasn't, the seasoned sailors would be able to navigate the ship. No, don't worry, boys, it's just a bit of chop. It's no big deal. I remember dealing with some pretty hectic waves once in my life. I'm no sailor at all. In fact, I'm a really bad sailor. One of my friends, I think I've shared this before, but we decided that we wanted to go fishing. We're down the South Australian coast, and we decided that we wanted to get, this is just a segue, this is a cool story. I don't know if it's got any relevance, but it'll be great. It'll have plenty of relevance, because this is what they would have gone through. So we decide that we want to go fishing because it's meant to be great snapper fishing out there. And we found a private beach, because for those of you that know me, know when I go on holidays, I don't like seeing people. I don't like camping near people unless I know the people. And if I go to a beach and there's people there, I have to find my own beach. There's just something wrong with me, I realise. It's got to be my own private beach. Anyway, so couldn't launch a boat there because there's people there. Plus then insecurity turns up and we don't know what we're doing. And so we'll go somewhere where no one can see us, no one can know us. And so we launch the boat and we're like, this is fantastic, this is great. Our own private oasis, there's no one here. Look at the waves, they're so picturesque, they're so pretty. And we're in an inflatable boat. It's a Zodiac inflatable boat. You pump it. It's not like a really, it's not like a kid's inflatable boat. It's kind of what the lifesavers use. It's kind of good. It has this floor that clicks together and everything holds together really well until. And anyways, so what happens to us is that we decide that we are heading out because we've got a direction, a point that we want to get to and arrive to, and we start going. And now the guy that was with me, he's kind of a seasoned sailor. I'm not. So everything was fun to me until it wasn't. And we start going and the waves are pretty big, but I thought anything could get over these waves. I didn't think it was a big job. And we're like that, and then a big wave turns up and and then the waves start getting bigger to the point where we're hitting the waves and we are launching. But I thought it was a great joke. So I'm right at the front and I'm holding a little bit of rope, the anchor's connected to it somewhere, and I think it's great, launching off in the air, my legs are flying up, I'm holding onto the rope, I'm like, this is the best. And then I turn around and I see the look of sheer terror on his face. It's gone from colour to white. And about that point, I'm like, this is not good. This is not good at all. And then I see the next wave, and the next wave, it's bigger again. And the boat's struggling to get over the top of it, and we managed to get over the top. I'm like, we'll be right, we'll be fine. Needless to say, we've barely even got 20 metres. We had this spot that we were going to that could have been a couple of Ks away, and we've barely got 20 metres, and we've been going at this for a while now. And we've barely got anywhere because it's so hard to get over these waves, and they keep taking you backwards, and the motor wasn't powerful enough. And then anyways, the next wave after that wave that we barely got over, I see it before it sees me. And then it sees me And then I realize it's all bad. And right as we're getting to it, I can see white water. I'm like, that sucker's going to break before we start climbing it. And it does that. And so the boat's like 12 foot long, or a bit longer than that, and it breaks and goes straight down to the middle of the boat. And you know what happens in a little inflatable boat, even with a clipped together floor? When that happens, the boat goes like this, whack! I was at the front and he was at the back, and we met in the middle. The boat was full of water, but the benefit of an inflatable boat, they can't sink. They cannot sink. And so it was level, full of water. The motor's stalled by this stage, and there's more monster waves turning up. And so every wave, but now it's too heavy. You can't sink this thing. You can't tip it over. And so the other bloke, he's on the back just reefing at this engine, trying to get it going. Eventually gets it going, and then like, slowly starts turning, making its way back. And I imagine the disciples were in a similar position to that. That's what I think. That's exactly what I think. The inflatable boat went like that, and it was full of water, and they couldn't get anywhere because it was full of water. It was so slow. But it is terrifying when you find yourself in a position like that. And because what I find interesting with this, when you think through it and you read through it, like at least 4 of these people that find themselves in this boat that Jesus has sent off to go to the other side, at least 4 of them are sailors. Like they're used to sailing, to navigating. And 4 of them aren't. So you've got 2 groups of people that are in the boat. Some that are used to this, used to rough waves, used to rough weather, all of that, and some that aren't. And I can tell you now that the ones that weren't, the non-sailors, would have been terrified. It's scary when you get out of your depth, when you're doing something that isn't what you normally do. And you find yourself in a Zodiac boat against waves that thought they looked like fun to start with, but you realize they're not fun at all. It gets really scary. It gets really concerning. It gets really worrying, and we end up trying to fight and work through whatever it is that the situation that turns up in life that is throwing at us. We try and navigate our way and work through in order to try and manage through. Like if you're not a sailor, sailing becomes terrifying at the slightest of gust of wind that looks anything like it should be. And so there's non-sailors in the boat, and about this point, they would have been absolutely freaking out, similar to what I did when I realized that we were in a death-defying situation and underneath me somewhere was sharks. Because if you know me, ocean equals sharks, and so there's just a constant fear. Even if I'm 20 meters out, I'm scared that sharks are going to eat me. So like there would have been fear. There would have been fear that turned up for the disciples that were non-sailors. This was out of their comfort zone, out of their understanding. I don't know how to navigate my way around this. And they were frantically probably trying to work out how to do it. But then there was another group of people, and they were seasoned sailors. And I dare say for them, while there was probably some adrenaline, some discomfort, some fear, somewhat, because it would suggest that it was a pretty ferocious storm because it went on for so long. But for them, they would have been just busy navigating their way through the storms. They knew what to do, so they were just busy working at it. They were busy working the sail, working the whatever it is, I don't know what that boat looked like. I'm not necessarily a historian. They would have been busy. And so when it comes to life, we find ourselves in different seasons, in different obstacles with different times, and no matter the obstacle, we'll always be one of 2 people. We'll be a person stripped, like I'm hit with fear because I'm out of my comfort zone, I'm out of my depth, I don't know what to do. Or, this is all good. I'm a seasoned sailor. I understand what it is that I'm doing. I understand what I need to do. This is difficult, but I'm just going to get busy doing it. So like seasoned sailors, this is what life looks like. I'm just busy doing life, busy going to work, coming back, busy raising kids, busy trying to pay off debt, busy trying to do that. And then I'm just busy trying to get through life. And then our non-seasoned sailors, well, we're busy too, but we're busy trying to survive. We're busy trying to deal with relational breakdowns and problems, busy trying to deal with financial difficulties, busy trying to deal with what it is that life throws at us. But the thing is this, that both busyness and fear do this. They get in the way of what God has in store for you. Our busyness and fear, both of them get in the way of what it is that God has in store for you to do. God's got something in store for you. God has a plan. He has a purpose for you. You weren't a mistake. You weren't born a mistake. You aren't here by mistake. You aren't watching by mistake. You haven't got the dreams inside your heart by mistake. It's not a mistake. There's a reason for it. God has something for you to do, but both fear of not actively stepping out and doing it, or fear of what is coming and happening, or just busyness, just doing what it is that I know I should do, both of them get in the way of what it is that God is wanting us and asking us to do. And so leadership does this. It leads you through, and two, what does it do? It leads you through your busyness. It leads you through your fear to where it is that you'd never normally go. Some of those disciples, I'd suggest, would never get in a boat if they knew the wind was going to pick up. But leadership leads you through and to, and Jesus wants to lead you through whatever obstacle is in front of you, whether it's fear, discouragement, busyness. He wants to lead you through that so you connect with him so that you can go to the place that he's asked you to go, which is generally somewhere you wouldn't normally go yourself. And so the story goes on at about 3 o'clock in the morning. Remember, I said this before. About 3 o'clock in the morning, so this has been a long time. Dusk till 3 o'clock in the morning, they've been fighting this storm. They're a bit like me. They haven't even got 20 meters offshore, and they've been fighting. And so about 3 o'clock in the morning, Jesus came toward them, walking on the water and doing this, intending to go right past them. So they've been fighting all this time, and then at some point, Jesus decides, well, I'll come down from the mountain, and I'm not going to walk around the lake to where it is. I'm going to do something. I'm going to just walk straight across the water. So this is Jesus walking on water. So Jesus comes to them walking on water, but he intends to do something. Not even look at them. Not even look at them. Just walk straight past them. Not stop, not engage with them, but just walk straight past them, just to keep going. And there's an interesting Greek verb that comes with this, with what this story's highlighting. And this Greek verb is something that comes out of the Greek translation of the Old Testament. I spent ages pronouncing this, parachinom, the parachute word. That's what it is. Anyways, so This word, what this literally means is that there's moments and encounters where God turns up in the earthly realm and engages people in a way to create a point. So it's not just your general miracles, as far as we talked about. Jesus feeding the 5,000, that's a general miracle. Jesus raising someone from the dead, incredible miracle, but it's not the parachinonomy. It's not that. Like this is God turning up in the earthly realm, engaging with a group of people or with a person in order to make a deliberate point. Do something specific to create a deliberate point. And there's a few different ways this happens throughout the Bible, but this is one of those things that Jesus turns up to them, comes to them walking on the water at about 3 o'clock in the morning, walking on the water, intending not to get in the boat, but to walk straight past them. Why is he doing it? Because he's intending to make a point. He's wanting to do this. He's wanting to grab their attention. Because I imagine at some point, like Jesus was the one that put them in the boat, which I find so odd and fascinating that in this story, that Jesus was the one that put them in the boat, and Jesus, being the Son of God, knew what was happening, knew what was coming, and he still puts them in the boat, sends them on their way, decides not to get in the boat with them, but decides to leave them on their own, knowing the storm would turn up, heads up the mountain, and he's nowhere to be found. And I imagine at some point in those multitude of hours of this storm raging on, the disciples fighting, and that someone would have said, where on earth is Jesus? Where on earth is Jesus? Like, he's not here. He put me in this boat. He put me in this situation. He put me in this mess. Where is he? He ain't here now. He's up the mountain doing whatever it is that he does up the mountain when he goes off on his own, conjuring up his own plans and own ideas, but he's not here with me. Anyone felt like that before? Like, God's not here with me. Where is he? He put me in this boat, but he's not here with me. And then when it says that he turns up, walking across the water, intending to go past them, he's wanting to get their attention. He's doing something deliberately to get their attention, to make a point, to say something, to do something. And so it's like this. The question will be, ever feel like God is just walking straight past you at your 3 a.m. moment of need? Because that's what he's doing to the disciples. Maybe some of you have faithfully served Jesus all your life. But you find yourself in a struggling season. And you feel like one of the disciples sitting in the boat. You're like, where's Jesus? Oh, there he is, walking straight past me. Some of you, perhaps, you've loved Jesus all your life. And you find yourself in a season where he's not here. He's over there in a distance walking past me. Some of you don't even know what you think of Jesus or what you think of God, but you have this belief and understanding that there is something, that he exists, but this is what I feel like, that he's always in the distance, walking past me. He's not interested in connecting with me, engaging with me in the midst of this storm, in the midst of this struggle, but he's all the way over there. He's not here. He's not with me. Some of us, we exist like that. Like, we go through difficult seasons, struggling times, struggling moments, heartaches. Like, where's Jesus? He's not here. In fact, he's left me in the middle of a storm, put me in the middle of a storm. He's left me here, and he's on his way, and he's intending to go past. The thought is this, that maybe it isn't that God is distant from you, but rather he's wanting to get your attention to lead you forward. So this is what that Greek verb's getting at. Jesus is trying to make a point, trying to grab their attention to say, hey, you know what? Your focus should be fixed somewhere else than your circumstances. I'm wanting to get your attention. I'm wanting to speak to you. I'm wanting to minister to you. I'm wanting to lead you out of this. I'm wanting to remind you that I've got something in store for you. I'm wanting to remind you that I've got a vision for you. I've got a future for you. I've got a hope for you. I've got a plan for you. I've created you for a purpose. I've created you on purpose, for a purpose. I've got something that I want you to do. I want you to see it. I want you to see me. I want you to realize this. That's what he's trying to do. He's trying to make a point. Maybe it's not that he's distant, that he's not there. He's like, hey, I'm over here. I want you to come to me. I want you to reach out to me. I want you to call out to me. I want you to engage with me, because I'm trying to make a point in your life, and I'm wanting to lead you through the midst of it. Leadership is supposed to do that, is to lead us through and to lead us through the difficulty, the heartache, the struggle, the busyness, the fear, the whatever it is that we're grappling with and we're struggling with, and lead us straight through that into the place that he has asked us, or he's wanting us to go. And generally, it's always a place we wouldn't naturally go ourselves, not because we wouldn't want to, but because we perhaps don't feel worthy to, perhaps don't feel skilled enough to, or right to, or will ever be able to. But Jesus wants to lead us through those feelings of fear and insecurity and busyness, and lead us straight into that place that he has got in store for us. When the disciples saw him walking on the water, they were terrified, as all of us would be. Like, there's this guy walking on the water. That's not normal. Like, how many of you seen that? It just doesn't happen, does it? Like, it would have freaked them out. Jesus starts walking on the water, and they freak out, and they're terrified in their fear. They cried out, "It's a ghost!" And these are suspicious people. Sailors are suspicious people. It's the Loch Ness Monster coming to sink the ship. That's honestly what would have started to go through their mind. This is some sea dragon, sea god, sea something coming, and he's wanting to take us down and destroy us. Like, this isn't a good thing. And then Peter called out to him, "I've missed something in here." So what happens is, like, Jesus, like, easy killers. It's not sea god, it's not sea monster, it's not anything like that. It is I. Like it's okay. And so Peter calls out to him and says, Lord, if it is really you, tell me to come to you walking on the water. Peter calls out to him, and like he hears his voice, and he realizes and he recognizes that is Jesus. And so he says, hang on, if it is really you, I want you to call out to me and ask me to come to you walking on the water. Why? Because a true leader will lead you to and through, or through and to, however it is that I worded it, through basically your struggles, your inability to think that I'm going to be able to get through there to the place where it is that he wants you to go. And so Peter's like, if it is you, you call out to me and you lead me. And so Jesus says this. He says, yes, you do that. So Peter, he gets over the side of the boat and he walks on the water towards Jesus. He gets out of the boat and he starts walking on the water towards Jesus. But this is what I find so intriguing. And I don't know where I'd sit in this, but there's 12 people in the boat. If you're not familiar with these stories or with Jesus' followers, there's 12 of them. They get called the 12 disciples. They get called the 12 apostles. They get called 12 of Jesus' followers, Jesus' homeboys, however you want to call them. There's 12 of them. 12 of them are in the boat. 12 of them are fighting the wind and the waves. 12 of them are in struggle street. 12 of them see him. 12 of them hear him. 12 people hear Jesus' voice calling out, but only one person responds. 12 people heard Jesus speaking, but only one of them responds. I don't know what the other 11 were doing, but I imagine it's split between two things. So concerned and freaking out about the situation that they find themselves, preoccupied with what's happening in my life at this moment, at this time. Fighting to get comfortable. And then there's another group of people that are so busy with going through the motions of life, of just doing life, trying to steer the ship, guide the ship, that they are so busy trying to remain comfortable in order to get through the storm that they don't even bother. 12 people hear Jesus' voice, but only one person calls out. Only one person calls out because the other 11, they're just comfortable, and that's what the boat is. The boat represents comfort. When we find ourselves in a difficult situation, what do? We do what we can to get comfortable. And sometimes that's freak out mode. Sometimes that's like different people have different ways of trying to outwork this. Like some of us, when we get into a season that is out of control, we go into flight, like a flight mode. Like we try and run and it's just chaotic. There's stuff going everywhere. It's like we're scrambling to survive, to get comfort back in life. And then others, we're just like, I've got to do what I need to do. And like we start writing lists. And I'm going to say this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to have this meeting with this person, I'm going to go here, do this, do that. Like we become really, really busy in order to try and get back to a place of comfort. And that's what the other 11 are trying to do, trying to survive, trying to find comfort. But one of them calls out and says, if it's you, you call me and I'll jump out of the boat and I will head to you. And the question that I pose to you is, what boat is it that you're sitting in? What boat is it that you're finding comfort in? What boat is it that you keep retreating to when storms turn up, difficult moments turn up, difficult people turn up, difficult happenings at work? What boat is it that you retreat to? Is it a boat of comfort or is it something else? Like what boat is it that we all struggle with, that you struggle with? And perhaps a way of knowing this is asking this question. What is it that produces fear in me? What is it that most produces fear in me, especially when I think of leaving it behind and stepping out in faith? Your boat will be this. The thing that produces the most fear in you if you think of leaving it behind. If I leave that behind, it's going to be uncomfortable. If I leave that behind, I'm not going to enjoy it. Your boat is this, the thing that you find the most amount of comfort in. And it might look like this. It's your vocation. I'm just really good at my job. I don't want to change. I'm just really good at my job. I really want to do this. Or when moments turn up that are out of control or difficult, you just fill yourself with work. Work. That's your comfort. That's your connection. Maybe it's your relationship. Maybe it's your boyfriend or girlfriend. Maybe it's your spouse. Maybe it's a friend. But this is your comfort. And maybe it's a relationship that isn't healthy, that you shouldn't be engaging with, that's disconnecting you from a relationship with Jesus, or is constantly dragging you back and constantly encouraging you to do bad things. But you don't want to leave that because that's comfortable. And I kind of like them. I kind of enjoy their company. But that's your comfort. That's your warm blanket. That's what you try to engage in. Maybe you're just a realist. You don't admit that could happen. That incredibly could take place. As far as if I did this, imagine all that could happen. If I did this, or I'm not sure if that's God's voice calling me, and we argue it from the standpoint of being realist, like, yeah, no, it's probably not going to happen. I'm not trying to be negative. It's just I'm a realist. Like, you can do that. That sounds really good. You think God placed that on your heart to go there, to do this, to be that? Sounds good, but it's probably not going to happen. Probably not going to happen. I feel like becoming a missionary to Africa. Oh, that's great. You know how to do that? Like, there's going to be all of this that you've got to work out finance and stepping out in faith, man. That's going to be terrifying. That's going to be scary. We're a realist. And that's our comfort zone. That's what we find comfort in. Or maybe it's your secrecy. People don't know me. And I'm comfortable with that. I'm happy with that because I can keep a facade up and everyone will continue to like me and I'll feel comfortable and I won't feel out of my comfort zone because I'll only ever show people what it is that I want them to see of me. Or maybe it's your success. I'm comfortable when there's dollars in my bank account. I'm comfortable when people are patting me on the back, telling me of how awesome I am. I'm comfortable when I feel like I'm achieving success. And these are the comfort zones that we find ourselves in. And realistically, these are our boats. The boat that the disciples in, well, that's a real boat. But figuratively, every single one of us find ourselves in a boat. Every single one of us reside at some point in a boat. And every single one of us have Jesus walking towards us, calling out to us. The big question is, how do you respond? When Jesus is calling to you, how do you respond? Do we respond by trying to get busy to go back to comfort? Do we respond by frantically doing whatever we can to try and get back to comfort? How do we respond? The story goes on. But when Peter, he's got out of the boat now, when Peter saw the strong wind and the waves, he was terrified and he began to sink and he cries out to Jesus and he says, I need you to save me, he shouted. And so Jesus immediately reached out his hand and grabbed him. And he says this to him, he says, you have so little faith. Why did you doubt me? And when they climbed back into the boat, they did this. The wind stopped. I love that song that Alex and the team were singing, Peace Be Still. It's a play off a different story, but a similar story of Jesus calming the wind and the waves with the disciples in the boat. Different story, but like a similar thing. The peace turned up. When Jesus got into the boat with them, peace turned up. And then they did this, and the disciples worshipped him, proclaiming that you really are the Son of God. They exclaim. They have this realization that he really is. He really is the Son of God. I realize it and I see it now. Why do they see it? Because, well, incredible things have happened. He's fed 5,000 people, then he's turned up to them walking on the water and he's calmed the storm. And it highlights to them this, that I really realize that he is the Prince of Peace, that he's the one that I'm meant to find comfort in, not my ability to navigate the waves, navigate the weather, navigate the storm, navigate my way through life, around obstacles, that he is the one that brings peace into my heart, into my life. Who you were created to become and what you were created to do is never discovered or outworked in comfort. The thing that you were created to be, to do, to become, will never be found in the comfortable situation. It will always be found in the discomfort, in outside of your comfort zone. It's outworked this, outside of the boat, stepping out in faith, following Jesus, leading. This is the big point that Jesus was wanting to make the disciples. That he came to them walking, intending to walk straight past them, walking on the water, intending to walk straight past them, wanting to get a point across to them, which was this, that I want you to get out of the boat and follow me. I want you to find comfort in me. Not in your ability to sail, not in your ability to freak out, not in your ability to do whatever it is. I want you to find comfort in me. Leadership does this. It leads you through and it leads you to. It leads you through your fear, your busyness, your scrambling, your troubles, your ability to navigate, all of that. It leads you through your discomfort, or it leads you specifically through your comfort into discomfort, into the place that God's asking, that he's calling you, which is generally somewhere that you'd never go yourself. Like Peter would never jump out of the boat in the middle of the sea himself. But Jesus called him out. So 10 things, 10 quick points, snap, of what I think being a leader looks like. Being a leader looks like. It looks like this. You are a leader of ... someone. You can insert whoever it is. You're leading someone at school. They're watching you. You're leading someone at work. We're all leading someone. Someone is watching us. Someone is engaging with us. Number 2, leadership simply can be summed up as this. It is influence. And that goes back to the first one. All of us have influence over someone. Leadership is influence. If you've got influence over someone, you are leading them. Everyone has influence over someone. The question is, where's your influence going to lead them? Somewhere good or somewhere bad? Somewhere that's healthy for them or somewhere that's not healthy for them? Number 3, if there is no trust, there is no influence. You will not grow in your influence with people if they do not trust you. You need to have trust in order to have influence. Some people will trust you and you'll have influence with them, but then other people, they don't trust you, so you don't have any influence over them. So you want to grow your leadership, grow your trust, and then that will grow your influence. Number 4, godly leadership requires you to be this, to be transparent. What does that do? Transparency builds trust. Trust builds influence, builds leadership. If we want to be good leaders as individuals, we need to start with being transparent, which builds trust with people, which builds influence with people, and in turn builds overarching leadership. Number 5, being a leader doesn't require you to know everything. Newsflash, you don't have to know much to be a leader. You just have to know something. You just have to know something. And this may be all it is. I know that Jesus is the Son of God. I know that I have a relationship with Jesus. I know that Jesus is passionate about you. I know that Jesus is for you. I don't know anything else. I don't get the whole creation thing. I don't know how Jesus created anything. I don't understand the miracles. I don't understand all the weird things they talk about in church, but I know that Jesus created you and he loves you and he wants a relationship with you, and I know that, and I'm going to tell you that and tell you that and tell you that. You don't have to know everything to be a leader. You just have to know something. Start with what it is that you know and share that with people. Engage with people. Number 6, influential leadership has a focus on how the leader can be of benefit to those they are leading, rather than how those they are leading can benefit the leader. It's flipped. It's the other way around. Number 7, empowering leaders is not waiting for them to have everything right. It is giving them an opportunity to mess it up. If you want to be an empowering leader to the people that are under you, if you're a business owner, if you're a small group leader, if you're a leader at church, whatever it is, if you want to be an empowering leader, give them an opportunity to mess them up. Not mess them up. No. Don't give them an opportunity to mess themselves up. That's bad leadership. Give them an opportunity to mess up what it is that they're doing. Don't do it so they get fired. There's some wisdom, step in and help. But if you're not giving them an opportunity to mess it up, you're not giving them an opportunity, you're micromanaging. Number 8, well-meaning leaders lead you into the boat. Godly leaders stand outside calling you out. Well-meaning leaders say, hey, jump in this boat. This boat sends you over here. But godly leaders will turn up in the midst of the most chaos time and say, hey, you better come out here. Oh, but it's going to be worse. It is going to be worse, but this is where God's leading you, calling you, asking you to go out of your comfort zone. Number 9, everyone wants to lead, but not everyone wants to be led. You can't lead unless you are led. Unless you put yourself under someone, share with them what your life looks like, is going through, unless you allow someone to speak into your life, you're not being led. For me, like next week, to give you an example of what this looks like for me, next week we have Pastor Ron Mallon coming. Some of you know who that is, some of you don't know who that is. Ron Mallon, he's a rock star in my mind. So Ron and Susan Mallon are coming to share next week, but they were the pastors of a church in Tatura called Generations Church, and they've planted multiple churches. And this is one of the churches that they helped plant. In fact, we wouldn't exist as a church without the support that they gave us. And so the support that Ron and Susan gave us was this. For nearly 2 years, they sent an entire team over every single Sunday night to make sure there was musicians, to make sure there's people welcoming, to make sure there was a crowd of people, so there was no flat atmosphere. They sent a team of people. He said, in fact, I'm pretty sure in a conversation I had with him recently, he said there was never a Sunday in those first 2 years that was under 50. Because we deliberately made sure we sent people over to support, whether they were just sitting in the pews supporting. And so for me, this is what I've done. I've deliberately put myself under Ron Mallon, and I go to him and I ask him to speak into me. I ask him to challenge me, to confront me, to pull me up. I deliberately go to him. You need to be led. Number 10, submitting to God is submitting to godly leaders. Unless you're submitting to godly leaders, you're not submitting to God. And it's not so your godly leaders can lord it over you, dictate you, control you. But unless we're submitting to godly leaders, we're not submitting to God. That is ultimately what leadership is. And that is ultimately what empowering leaders looks like, connecting them with a relationship with Jesus that calls them out of the boat, that calls them to step into a space, into a place that God's got in store for them, encouraging them to step out of that and into that, not staying in this place that is comfortable, not staying in this place that is known, not staying in this place that is understood. And the story that we want for all of you as a church would be this: to discover the person that you were created to be. Some of you have got dreams and visions in your hearts that you're too terrified to go after. Some of you got ideas floating around your head that I'd really like to do this. But it's your fear of the discomfort that keeps you from doing that. And would love to help you redo a story that says the opposite. Redo a story that says, this is what I did. I took a step of faith. I stepped out. I engaged in a relationship with Jesus. It's been 10 years since that, and my goodness, look at what has come out of that. I can't believe the person that I am today, the place that I am today, the people that I'm serving with today, that I'm engaging with today. And that's all happened because I took a chance on Jesus. How about you stand? I want to pray for you. Father, we want to say thank you for your presence. I want to say thank you for your leading. I want to say thank you that you're with us in the midst of every storm, in every season, in every moment. But also I want to say thank you that you're not always right there beside us. But sometimes you're on the other side of whatever it is that it looks like, or you're in the midst of it, but not right there with us, but you're calling us to you. So, Father, I want to pray for every person that finds themselves in just a comfortable place. I'm just comfortable in my relationship with Jesus. I don't want to step out of here because I'm just comfortable. Father, I want to ask that you encourage and inspire and equip them to lift their eyes to see you out there calling them out into the discomfort. But God, I also want to pray for those that you're doing that with, to remind them that when they step out, the peace comes with them, that it might be uncomfortable, but there's peace in the discomfort because we're stepping out to you. I want to pray for those that are watching online, that are in the room, that are trying to navigate this, trying to understand this, trying to get their head around this, and perhaps are feeling this pull. I don't know what this looks like. A connection with you. I don't know how that seems or what it could be or what it should be or what it looks like, but I want to step out and I want to start that with you, Father. I want to pray that you ignite their hearts to say, hey, I'm calling you to step out of the comfort of what life looks like and into discomfort, into a life that you'll never imagine. God, I want to pray for every single person here that you minister to them, Jesus, that you share with them the gifts and the talents that you've placed in them, Father. I want you to reignite the dreams and visions that you've placed in their hearts, what it is that you've called them to become, created them to become, Jesus. Reignite that in their hearts, Father. Make it uncomfortable to stay in that place, Jesus. And I pray that we can all step out in faith to pursue you. I'm just going to ask everyone to keep their eyes closed. Heads bowed for a moment. I don't know where it is that we're all at, that you're at. But this is what I believe that Jesus is wanting to call some of you out of the boat this morning. Maybe you've never accepted Jesus as your Lord and Savior. I want to give you an opportunity to step out of the boat and start a relationship with Jesus. Some of you have just been residing in the comfort of your boat. But through this, you felt the Holy Spirit saying, this is your boat. This is what you need to get out of. This is your boat. This is what you need to get out of. I want to give you an opportunity to respond and say, yep, I want to get out. I want to get out. For some of you, you can feel something stirring in your heart right now. Something saying, I don't get it, but yes, I need to get out. I need to get out. I need to get out of this boat. So if that's you, if you want to respond to that and say, yes, I want to get out of this boat. Yes, I want to start a relationship with Jesus. Yes, I just want to get out of this boat. I want you to raise your hand. I'm not going to ask you to come at the front. Just raise your hand right where you are, and I want to pray for you. I see that hand. I see that hand. I see that hand. Is anyone else? I see that hand. The boat's so comfortable. I see that hand. That's good. If there's anyone else? That's good. So I'm going to pray. And if that's you, I just want you to say amen to this prayer. Father, it's so comfortable hearing what it is that I'm in, Father. So comfortable doing life and journeying it on my own, journeying it without you, journeying it with how I know or I believe it should go. But I realize that right now I need to step out of comfort and into a relationship with you. So Father, I just want to surrender my heart to you for the first time. Or Father, I want to surrender my heart to you for the 100th time this morning and hand it over to you and just say, yes, Jesus, call me, I'm going to step out. And if that's you, and I just encourage everyone to say amen to that. Amen. And if that's you and that's your response, I'd love for you to come to the front and I'd love to be able to chat with you, share with you and engage with you and talk with you about how that could look. But otherwise, head out, grab a tea or coffee. Don't run off, engage with one another, and look forward to seeing you next week with Pastor Ron Mullen.